I cannot get the story out of my head. It's a true story of an elderly lady who, at the end of the church services, would always shake her minister's hand for a long time. In the old days, the good old days, the minister would stand at the door, wouldn't they, and shake your hand as you left. I remember one church near where I was in my first church, where the minister who'd retired used to stand just down the steps after the minister that had come in after him. So everyone would shake the new minister's hand, but really they wanted to shake the old minister's hand because they still liked him, and he would stand there. I remember when I was in America and I went to a big church, and the minister and his wife, and I always wind Jo up that we'd do this, but she'd kill me. The minister and his wife would stride up the central aisle at the end of the service in the final song, and then they would both stand on the door to shake people's hands. An older lady at my first church, which had a very long building, she said to me after one Sunday, "Why doesn't Jo shake hands with people on the door as the minister's wife?" And Jo was sat down the front playing the piano at that time, and I said to her, "Come with me, look, see, Jo's right down there. Now, unless she's Mrs. Tickle, she's going to have a really tough thing." And she kind of giggled and went, "Oh yeah, okay, I get it." But this elderly lady in this church would shake her minister's hand for so long, and one day said, "I do like shaking your hand. Why do you shake my hand for so long?" And she said, "It's the only time in the week when I get to touch someone else." That hand on the shoulder, that thoughtful hand on hand, can mean so much more than we ever think. I remember once in here before what for me was a tense service, and Andy Martin, is he here I think this morning? Yeah, so I'm going to embarrass you. He just said, "Oh, can I pray with you?" And I said, "That'd be great." And he could have just stood with me and prayed, and he just put his hand on my shoulder. He asked, and I gave permission, and I just felt the peace of God. And it was not a cliche thing, it was just we're in this together, and the God who joins us and unites us is far bigger than all the things that divide us. Because we can feel so divided and lonely. Statistics on loneliness, here's just a few for you. 2/5 of older people, about 3.9 million people in our country, say the television is their main company. In 2022, 49.63% of adults, 25.99 million people in the UK, reported feeling lonely occasionally, or sometimes, or often, or always. And in that same year, approximately 7.1% of people in Great Britain, 3.83 million people, experienced chronic loneliness, meaning they feel lonely often or always. This has risen from 6% in 2020, and COVID levels are not coming back down. In 2019, nearly 9 in 10, 88% of Britons aged 18 to 24, said they experienced loneliness to some degree, with a quarter, 24%, suffering often, and 7% saying they are lonely all of the time. And this is only underlined by social media, isn't it? Where everyone's got buddies, where every sitcom they've got a coffee shop or a pub that they can go to with bazillions of people that know them and accept them and love them. Everyone's Facebook page is their best version of themselves. Look at us again, striding with a bazillion friends through the parks. Our children are well behaved, our dogs are manicured, and our car never needs washing. And we sit at home and think, "I'm just tired. I'm so busy. I've got to-do lists for my to-do list." That's how much I've got going on, we may feel. One website said, "Humans are social beings. Without regular and positive contact, most of us feel lonely. Feeling lonely can be a depressing or scary feeling. For some, it happens every now and then. For others, it can become our most regular friend or enemy. Everyone feels lonely from time to time. It comes in many forms. It is usually when you have little contact with people. It can also be when you feel you have little importance or value in other people's lives, or when the people you are with see things differently from you. Some people suffer from anxiety, and this can lead to problems meeting people and making friends. If you feel lonely for a long time, it can bring with it a deep belief that everything is useless and a feeling of isolation, thinking you are separate or different from everyone else. Minister friend of mine, his 2 children have recently got married. They're in their late 20s, and we were talking the other week, and I said to him, what's it like being at home, just you and your wife? Expecting that this would be a deep pastoral counselling moment, and he said, it's brilliant. He said the food bill has gone right down. We can do what we want, when we want. I'm loving it. And that jarred against so many experiences that I hear of empty nest syndrome, of, well, where are we now? What are we doing in life together now? And what's true of empty nest syndrome is true of each stage of life, isn't it? When we get to a new normal, well, who are we now? I've stopped doing the school drop-off this last year from September. Done the school drop-off for 15 or 16 years. It was really weird thinking I haven't got to get up and shout at any children to get ready for school. It was bizarre to think my life has changed morning-wise in a new phase. Maybe we just started work. We've not got that comfort of school and someone else telling us that we need to be in geography at 10:35 a.m. to be bored to death for 15 minutes. And we're with full-grown adults who breathe funnily and don't finish their sentences because they forget what they're saying. And I'm only 18 or 19 and I've got to engage with that. Or maybe we've made a career change. Or maybe we've retired. Or maybe we're at that age where we look in the mirror and we think, who is that old geezer looking back at me? I do not recognise him. And at each stage we can feel lonely. Is anyone else experiencing what I'm going through? Am I the only fool? If I share it with my home group, will I look silly? Maybe I'll just keep going and keep quiet. When I was about 15 years old, I remember my dad saying to me, my dad didn't say much really, he listened to my mum, that was more his role in the family. But he did say to me once, Neil, in life you have a lot of associates and very few friends. And my response was, you hairy idiot. I've got loads of friends, loads of people I can turn to. I'm in a youth group with a Bible study group of 56 people. Most of them fancy me. I've got loads of friends. As I've got older and turned from 15 to 52 and a half, I think my dad might have something to say. It was Mark Twain that said, when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Don't you find it annoying when things your parents said to you are actually true? Don't you find it even more annoying when you start repeating things that your parents said to you? And you can actually hear their tone. Very few friends. There are few friendships in the Bible that are worth writing about, I think. Not many. King David and Jonathan. Jonathan who had David's back. David who loved and protected Jonathan. That's a really solid friendship in the Old Testament. But I see more strife and disunity in the Bible. That's why Paul in the New Testament had to write all his letters. He didn't write one letter that said, well done, you're all great, nothing really to talk about that's controversial. Every single letter was saying, come on guys. Philippians, Judea and Syntyche, I plead with you, get on with one another. Peter, Why have you stopped eating with the Gentiles when I made it really clear that you should do this? Not just with the Jews, but with the Gentiles as well. Come on, get your act together. Barnabas, I'm having nothing to do with Mark anymore. He's stuffed me over, and I don't want anything to do with him on our missionary journeys. So Barnabas, if you want Mark, you go that way, and I, Paul, will go that way. And for many years they did, until they reconciled and Paul welcomed Mark back. The Bible reads more like EastEnders than The Sound of Music when it comes to relationships. And that's why Jesus strikes such a chord of change through it. Jesus welcomed 12 men, a terrorist, a tax collector, fisherman, a doctor, extremes that should not in the world's eyes get on. Rich women who financed his ministry for 3 years. 72 who gathered around them and followed. And in the midst of all those and the 500, Jesus had the disciple whom he loved, we think John. And with John, 2 others who were his closest friends. Jesus did not apologize for this. Jesus did not say, I'm just going to try and be really deep friends with everyone. He chose a select group. And even one of those, Judas, with good intention, I think, betrayed him. How do we know that Jesus was friends with them? My measure of it was he gave them nicknames. The twins he called Sons of Thunder. Peter he called Cephas, the rock. I think when you give someone a nickname, if it's a loving one, it's a sign that actually you'll be vulnerable with them. I've got nicknames for some of you that go back 4 or 5 decades because I know I can love you and be vulnerable with you. At our wedding, in the meal, the best man, Dave Hayward, asked everyone with a nickname to stand up and he read them out. And out of 120 people, about 80 people were on their feet, including my mother-in-law, Horsey Bird. In John 15:13, Jesus says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And we are Jesus's friends. Jesus, who in the Bible is called Christ, Lord, Master, the Word, Son of God, Son of Man, Son of David, Lamb of God, new Adam, second Adam, last Adam, light of the world, bread of life, King of the Jews, Rabboni, Rabbi, Saviour, Nazarene, chosen one Messiah, first and last, Alpha and Omega, Lion of Judah, I am. I think I've covered them. He says, don't use those titles with me. You don't need to use those. You can call me friend, because that's what I call you. His disciples, he says to them towards the end of the 3 years together, no longer do I call you disciples, I call you friends, because you know what I am calling you to do. Ramsay Michaels said, those for whom Jesus gives his life are his friends, whoever or whatever they may have been before that. His love for them, and consequently his death on their behalf, transforms them into friends. Jesus really likes you and me. He likes spending time with us, praying with us, laughing with us, crying with us. We don't have a stained glass window, Jesus, two-dimensional, beautiful but unapproachable. We have an ex-carpenter who lost his dad when he was young, loved his mum till the end, and got a ragtag bunch around him that made the A-team look like a really brilliant group, and said, you're my friends. I want to spend time with you. In that passage of John 15 where Jesus calls us friends, he talks about the vine and the branches. And he was probably speaking at this stage in the upper room, and then they moved through the Kidron Valley and across the Mount of Olives, and they would have seen the great golden vine, the national emblem of Israel, on the front of the temple. And that's what Jesus says they are the new version of. that he is the vine and they are the branches. And if you see that emblem, the branches are interwoven together, and actually their structure relies on them being together, not separate, but vulnerable and open, in strength and in weakness, in I've got it all together, thank you, and absolute brokenness. Jesus says, as my friends, this is what I want you to be like, interwoven with one another. And at church we have fellowship. God wants us to have friendship. I think friendship that always has an extra chair at the table for someone else. Coffee time in our church can be the loneliest time if you're a new person. That's not to make any of us old timers like me feel guilty, but it is so easy when we've grabbed a coffee and got one of the manky plain biscuits, because the plague of kids have got the good ones, to then think, I'll talk to my friends that I haven't seen all week, or I must keep my eye on my children so they don't run out into the road, and I get that. Or I need to say that I can't do that rota in 2 weeks' time and see if Jeff can swap with me. And meanwhile, the new person, or the person that lacks confidence to go and say hi, often can stand with their coffee thinking, I wish someone would speak to me. And the new person can have been new for 5 years, not just 1 week. And so my challenge to me and to all of us at a really practical level is, before the rotas, before our friends, not before our kids, to make sure they're safe, but just have a look round and think, who's new? Because if they don't want to speak, then make it politely really clear. But maybe they're desperate for someone to talk to them. It's so much harder in a large church. A church like us with a membership of 4 million, it's difficult. When you're in a church of 6 with a dead dog, it's really easy to see the new person. Hi, how are you? It's really good to see you this morning. Sorry, I don't know your name. How do we lay down our life for our friends? That's what Jesus tells us we should do. Life here in Greek is soul, and soul is the very centre of us. It's the essence of who we are, beyond the physical, even beyond the emotional and the intellectual. It's that which will stand before God and be recognised fully by God when our time comes. Jesus says, lay down your life, your soul, for your friends. Be interwoven with one another. I have been absolutely overwhelmed this week by the emails, the WhatsApp messages, and the chats that you've had with me. And do you know what? When I sent that email out, I wasn't nervous at all, because I know you love me. I know I irritate you sometimes. I get it wrong on occasion. But love goes deeper and is more solid. And I feel so much happier being vulnerable, because I know I'm loved. And that's bearing our soul with one another. We don't all do it with everyone, and we shouldn't. But maybe you've got stuff going on inside, and you need to lay down your life with someone and just say, I'm really struggling with this that's going on in my soul. Could you walk with me? Could you pray for me? You know what? It opens up a deeper friendship with that other person. And they may walk with us. In 1 John, Jesus said, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. A friend of mine in the church here took me to see the new Bruce Springsteen album a couple of weeks ago. It's about a 3-year period of his life in his early 30s where he has a complete breakdown. He's made it as a rock star. Everyone loves him in America. And he's thinking, I've got no partner, no children. I'm renting a home. My parents live the other side of the country. What am I doing with my life? And the thing that grabbed me as I walked out of that cinema in tears at the end was that his producer, John Landau, who is still his good friend, stuck with him throughout it and said, I am with you, Bruce. Let's watch a clip of the film together. I know I'm a Bruce fan, so I'm biased, but it's a fantastic film on how we cope in the tough periods of life. And his manager says to the record label boss who wants the next big hit to make more money for the record label, this is not about either one of us. This is not about the charts. This is about Bruce Springsteen. And these are the songs that he wants to work on right now. Bruce is a repairman, and what he's doing with this album, he's repairing that hole in his floor. He's repairing that hole in himself. But in this office, my office, we believe in Bruce Springsteen. And I thought as I came out of the cinema, we all need friends like that around us, don't we? Who say, I believe in your name. And I will stand with them. And the friend that I went to watch this film with is a manager for a well-known musician. And I said to her, have you ever been in that situation? She said, yeah, I had to stand by my person and say to a record label, we're not going the way you want, knowing that it was a huge risk. But I do the right thing for my artist. Who do you stand by? Who do you say to the world, I believe in this person? That's laying down our life for others. Jesus wants us to believe in him. But Jesus also knows that we need friends. Friends for the journey until we breathe our last.